It depends what the end goal is. Is the end goal carbon neutral, or is the end goal battery electric vehicle? I think the whole industry is working to meet it. Do we have enough battery facilities to meet the electrification requirement? I don't know. I don't know about the whole industry. Does that mean that some vehicles are going to have to be restricted? Maybe. My official new role is I'm in charge of R&D for North America. Or you can use the fancy term of Chief Technology Officer. So what that really means is advanced powertrains, electrification, advanced research items into mobilities, maybe flying cars, whatever we're working on to advance mobility as part of the bigger, a smaller entity of the bigger entity being TMC, falls under my responsibility.
I think being that you are now the emperor, you need like robes, maybe like a big headdress, like a war headdress you wear.
Yes.
It'd be great.
Big staff. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
That
shoots laser beams out of it or something like that.
I'm just trying to get used to the new office. It's a little bit much.
Oh, they moved you out of the basement?
They did.
That's unfortunate.
And took my red stapler away too. I'm a little disappointed about that.
Is there a group inside of Toyota or just every car manufacturer that, yeah, there's government liaison groups, that I know, but is there a group inside of a Toyota or other car manufacturers that goes back to governments and say, what you're proposing is not feasible, and here's why? Or here's some learning we've taken, perhaps you should think about this and adjust your mandates.
We try to keep a good relationship with the different government entities. Our spirit is, if this is a rule, we're going to try to accomplish a rule. We don't do well playing in gray zones, so if this is a rule, we're gonna hit it. We do have discussions with them. We actually run testing for some of the government bodies to show them that it's feasible or not feasible. We contribute to the rulemaking. And then there's of course the associations where all the OEs come together, and there's SAE, and we put one voice together and come back and say, yeah, we can do that, we can work towards it, but maybe we're just a little too soon.
It just seems like the timelines are so unrealistic at this point.
Yeah, the timeline's a timeline, and how to work towards
That's a very engineering response.
It is what it is. Or my favorite Japanese term, shogunai. It is what it is. So can we meet it? Well, we're going to try to meet it. I think the whole industry is working to meet it. Do we have enough battery facilities to meet the electrification requirement? I don't know. I don't know about the whole industry. I know what we're working towards. Does that mean that some vehicles are going to have to be restricted? Maybe. The bigger issue to me is, how do you solve the issues of electrification in areas that don't have the charging stations or have extremely cold weather or extremely hot weather? Batteries don't like to get cold.
So do you see governments adjusting their mandates once they understand this more?
Boy, I can't speculate what governments are going to do. I think in some cases, I hope so, but
like, what would be a case you hope so?
I'm not sure. Our approach is balanced, and we're a little bit different than other OEs because we're a global automotive company. And what I mean by that is, North Americans 20% of our sales. We sell in China, well, we sell in 147 countries. So our solution that we put forth is more of a global outlook. It's not just US regulation or Canadian regulation or Mexican regulation, but I have to worry about countries in the Middle East. How about Australia? How about China? How about, Asia Pacific regions? How do we meet all their regulations as well? Europe, you know cars well, so Europe has completely different set of regulations.
It's granted gotten a little bit more stringent in Europe to the point where it's funny. Just last week I was driving the new Porsche Cayenne Turbo GT. You would love it. It's totally your kind of thing. 4-liter twin turbo V8, 650 horsepower, 626 pounds of torque. It's made in Bratislava, right? You can't buy it in Europe because the mandates on emissions are so tight. And as you know better than I do, the budgets are so tight. Porsche, who has a huge R&D budget, could only afford to update the engine in the Cayenne S, which they went back to a V8 from a V6 because that had more longevity with the tightening EU mandates for emissions. The low volume car, this Turbo GT, they didn't put the money in, but they said, you know what, we could probably sell it for a couple more years to those idiot Americans. And I'm grateful for it.
And that's, every country's that way. Every country has its requirements. How longevity, when you talk longevity of powertrains, that's got to be a consideration. You know, you keep saying bring a V8 out. Well, V8s are going to be hard pressed as we move forward because of the greenhouse gas requirements.
That's why I've been so nice to offer the manual transmission idea in the TRD Pro. But you laugh at me.
So here's the thing about manual transmissions, and you're preaching the choir on this one. I love a good manual transmission. I love a good manual transmission with a good diesel engine in front of it.
Yes.
With that said, the reality with the electronics we have now, the lock times on an automatic with paddle shifters is quicker than that you can shift manually.
Okay. I've heard this argument God knows how many times. Unless you are drawing a paycheck as an F1 pilot and you have women in Monaco, that argument does not apply. There's people like you and me.
There's
that
a fun
love the
factor.
Interaction, yeah.
There's a fun factor. And what I will say, you know, I truly believe we should start all teenagers that are starting to drive or anybody starting to drive on a manual transmission.
Totally agree.
Because one, you can't play with your phone. There is no driver distractions because you're too busy driving the car.
Yes.
But everybody, my daughter's learned how to drive on a manual. Everybody that's learned how to drive on a manual, they're very in tune with their vehicle. Every noise their vehicle makes, every vibration their vehicle makes, they know what's going on with the vehicle. I don't see that same interaction as we put more electronics in the vehicle. Not that I'm against electronics. They all serve a purpose. But is the vehicle driving or is the person driving? And I think we've missed teaching people how to drive.
Here we become officially grumpy old men.
Exactly. And I am there. I call it old man's disease, but yeah. 3 on a tree. Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
3, yeah, okay.
Absolutely. There's a buddy of mine, he's got a 52 Mercedes. Super cool car. It's not fancy. It's not an Adenauer. It's a small one, a 220. It's got the fabric roof that opens up, and it's 4 on the tree in that one.
4 on the tree.
Yeah.
That's
It's slow as molasses. But man, is it fun to drive. Back to the futuring, because effectively you are you are now futuring more than just giving us pickup trucks. That is your role, from what I'm hearing. It sounds like there is some attention being paid inside of Toyota, at least, of, yeah, okay, we can go electrification and electric, but not everywhere. Am I reading the tea leaves correctly here?
we believe in a balanced approach, and Akio Toyota's made that very clear to everybody. As a company, we're going to take a balanced approach. There isn't one solution that fits everybody. I'm a truck guy. I do a lot of towing. I want to tow 4 hours without stopping. So our ranges on our fuel tanks are set up for 4 hours nonstop, max towing. Can I do that with a full electric vehicle? At this moment, no. So is that meeting that customer's need? If I'm a rancher in North Dakota, am I going to buy a diesel engine? Probably not. I'm probably buying a gas engine because I can't start the diesel in the winter. It's too cold. And where other cold regions, they may plug them in. If you're a rancher in North Dakota, may have no place to plug your truck in at. So do you take the risk that your diesel's not going to start. This is what I mean by, or Toyota's meant by, it's got to be a balanced approach. Your need may be different than my need. And the coastal needs versus the heartland needs may be perfectly different. And the southern need may be different than the northern need. So how do you offer a vehicle that adds to that person's overall experience, or our favorite term is, mobility for all. So how do I give something to you that gets you from point A to point B, where you need to go, and also should be a little bit of fun.
But it sounds as if, at least in my lifetime, I haven't seen anything like this where at least two major governmental heads, Washington and Brussels, they do see a one-size-fits-all solution. And there's a lot of pushback against it, but nothing's changed.
It depends what the end goal is. Is the end goal carbon neutral, or is the end goal battery electric vehicle?
That's where I have a saying I like to share from an old family member. Don't bother me with the facts, my mind is already made up. And that's the way I feel Brussels and Washington have been operating as of late. And I think, this is the point of the episode. I think we turn this around to the audience. Because I'm sure there's a lot of technology you could share with us, but as you said, you'd have to kill me. You can't. Well, actually, Olivia would kill me
you can't
first.
leave the building. So that's.
I'd be toiling in the basement of Toyota. By the way, we are in the basement.
You are in the basement.
I got demoted last year. We were in the fancy spot, but we went there today to go to the fancy spot. But guess what? People are working in the building again now.
Oh.
I know you liked it with nobody here, but I liked it. Very quiet, but this is a real TV studio, so thank you for that.
Yeah, well, thank me.
Well, Olivia did it all. She's
good.
Like the magician.
I used to be down here. I had a can of Raid and a flashlight. And that's where my desk was.
Yeah, and your red stapler.
And my red stapler.
Okay, so back to the question at hand. So you could tell us the future, but you're bound by confidentiality. You can't tell me all the details, no matter how hard I've tried to get it out of you today. So I think we turn this around to the audience. And where do they see the next 12 years going with this push from Brussels and Washington into what I would say is battery electric, even though they say electric, and you redefine it as electrification, which I think is a great midterm step. So where do you guys see this happening? Do you see these governments relenting a bit and pushing the mandates farther out, coming to the realization that, as we're both agreeing, one size does not fit all. There isn't one solution for the entirety of the world. Or do they just stick to their guns and we descend into civil war?
I don't know. When they decide, let me know, because it'd make my life a lot easier.
And with that, I would highly suggest you watch another episode that I shot in this very spot with the incredible Sheldon. Like, I thought you knew a lot about pickup trucks. You know nothing compared to Sheldon.
I really don't know much about anything.
Well, I
do
didn't
know
want to let that secret out.
a good Dominican cigar. Dominican tobacco with a Connecticut shade wrapper is lovely. I like A Fuente.
You are an A Fuente guy. Tonight we're going to have to try something different. I'm going to see what they have at this chop house you said we're going to. I'm very excited about this. This is a place where we can go to and you eat in the same building you have a cigar. You realize you get publicly drawn and quartered in California for doing something like that. Anyway, watch the episode I did with Sheldon because he is the chief engineer of the Tacoma, and I didn't want to say it to him to get him too excited, but I will say it to you. You guys knocked it out of the park with that thing. Like, way beyond expectations. Like, crazy way beyond expectations. That said, he and I did a great, we drilled down into the details of how the Tacoma came into being. So watch that episode. You can click on here and check out my episode with Sheldon. Until I see you in the next episode, Bish Beta.